Christina and you're watching Proud Bookline. And today I'm doing my wrap-up part 4 out of 2017. Since last we spoke, I've actually read 6 books because the last book I read in 30 minutes, so it wasn't planned. Anyways, let's get into it. The first book I read was The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. I really enjoyed this book, or I enjoyed parts of this because I've seen the movie when I was younger, so I recognized a lot of things. If you don't know what it's about this girl named Lyra, and she gets this golden compass. Children are being abducted by these gobblers, and she's trying to figure out who the gobblers are and this magical thing called dust that the grown-ups seem obsessed with. What I did like about it is that it's inspired by the North, so there's a lot of Scandinavian names, and I recognized where he got a lot of inspiration from, which I always find interesting, even if I sometimes get annoyed with things that aren't very accurate, because I can tell. I really liked the polar bears, and I loved Irek. However, I thought it was pretty slow, and a lot of time it was confusing, so I think I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read Bonjour Tristesse, but I read it in Swedish, and I actually got this book for free, and my sociology professor or teacher, he gave a couple of students books, and he had wrapped them, and they weren't the same books, so each one of us got different ones, and yeah, it was really sweet and kind of him, and I'm really happy that he did it. I wish that I could say that I loved reading this book, but I really didn't. It's kind of like a French classic. It was written in the 70s, I think, or something like that, and it's about this young girl and her father, and they have been living together all their life pretty much, and they are at the beach house in the summer, and he always parties, and he has a new girlfriend every week, and girl Cecil, she enjoys this, she's fine with this. However, suddenly there's this Anne, and she and her father ends up planning to get married, and Cecil isn't okay with this. No, Cecil wants to live her own life, and she wants to date Cyril, and it's pretty much about Cecil trying to ruin her father's relationship, and she's really manipulative, and I got annoyed with her, and she wasn't thinking long enough. I'm aware that she's 17, and that a lot of us, we don't really think 3 steps ahead. We often think 1 step ahead. And she didn't see wrongs in what she was doing. She was like, oh yeah, this is probably not okay, but I'm going to do it anyways. And I was just like, nah, this is not okay. What are you doing? This is... no. So I think I gave it 2 out of 5 stars or something. It's really short, but it took a long while just because I was so angry at her. I didn't really enjoy the book, but I'm really thankful that I got the book from my sociology professor, if that makes sense. Next up, I read Girl Out of Water by Laura Silverman. This book was so amazing. It's about this girl named Anise, and she's a surfer, and she's been living her whole life in California with her dad, and she's just living life, and this is the last summer before her friends leave for college. She's going to stay where she is, and she's going to continue to surf, and she has this summer planned out to a T, and everything's going to be perfect. And then her aunt ends up in a car accident, and she's forced to leave California and go to Nebraska, where there is no surfing allowed. It's no sea, no ocean, nothing. And she's terrified, and she doesn't like it, and she has a very complicated relationship with her mom, but her relationship with her aunt and cousins, it's great, and it becomes way better when she spends the summer there. And when she's in Nebraska, she gets to know Lincoln, and he is a one-armed, amazing black character, and I really love him. And I love his little brother, and I love Anise's cousins, and I really like this. It has a lot of different dynamics and relationships, and it has a lot of diversity, and it has a lot of well-used language. It's not ableist. I didn't pick up on any ageism. Lincoln, he's adopted, and he's one-armed, he's black, and the relationships and the family dynamics and everything, it just felt very real to me. It's the perfect summer read. This looks pretty long, but it really isn't. I read it in a couple of days, I think. So if you haven't read it yet, I totally recommend. And Laura is one of the sweetest people ever. So follow her on Twitter. I think I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because it was really, really great. So next up is a book that I don't physically own because my library does that, and that was Drop by Katie Everson, and I talked about it in my previous video where I actually had the book to show. I didn't like it. I think I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. It's about a girl and she moves places again, and she actually ends up using drugs and in a very destructive relationship with a guy. She's always been in the nerds and she wants to advance to like the popular group, and not really what she planned, and I had a lot of issues with it. I did not think it was real. I thought some aspects of it was kind of real, but a lot of things that I would assume and that I expected to be in the book, like withdrawals and feelings of not knowing where you belong, they weren't really there. It was very ableist, like the language, it was very Asian, like so much homoacism, hated on every part that was different. And when she was talking about how she wasn't using drugs anymore, at least not to that extent, she was like, oh, it's not so bad, it's very easy. And a lot of people that are dealing with different addictions, whatever it might be, if it's food or it's drugs or alcohol, I think everybody that knows anybody that has an addiction or dealing with addiction or just read about addiction knows that it isn't as easy as it seems, and it's not a choice to have an addiction. So I was very like, no, I did not like the book. It had so many wrong terms and it didn't feel real, and it felt very allo cishet abled. I liked the last couple of pages because then she was like, oh, this will take time and everything, but throughout the book we didn't really have that at all. Intentions were good, but no matter the intention, I'm pretty sure that this book will and could possibly cause a lot of harm and a lot of hurt. And next up, I read another library book because I've been trying to use my library a lot more, and that was Golden Boy by Abigail Tartlin, and it's about an intersex character named Max. He is struggling with a lot of things, so I'm just going to put a trigger warning on rape because it's literally in the first chapter and I was not expecting this. However, it's an important topic. I thought it was treated respectfully, and I also read a review by a girl that's intersex and she has been raped. She actually really enjoyed this book. However, intersex people, they are not monolith. You actually get to learn a lot about in this book, so she can't speak for everybody and I can absolutely not speak about the representation. However, it was a really nice experience reading about an intersex character. I really enjoyed Max. However, it deals with homoacism. It could potentially cause harm. I didn't pick up on that, but that's probably because of my privilege stance, because I identify as bisexual. I usually have a hard time picking up things that I'm not personally affected by, and that's why we have to check out different reviews and we have to listen to all voices, not a single voice. I'm sorry that my camera stopped recording, but I was about to tell you about my sick book that I read since last time we spoke, and that was the book that I read in 30 minutes. That's like a really short time, at least for me. That was The Princess Saved Herself in this one, and it's actually a poetry book or collection or installment. I'm not really sure about the right term. I think I'd call it a poetry collection, and it's poems that are written by the lovely Amanda Lovelace. I absolutely adore her. She's such a loving and caring human, and she's very active on Twitter and Instagram. I absolutely loved the June prompts, and they've like inspired me to write poetry, even though my poetry definitely sucks, especially compared to Amanda's poems. Like, wow, this book is so beautiful and so inspirational. It made me so emotional and I cried a couple of times during those 30 minutes. It really leaves an impression with you, and especially, at least I think, if you identify as a woman, I think this book will empower you a lot. And there were so many poems that I carry with me. I absolutely loved it so much. It's pretty much Amanda's life so far. It's split into 4 parts, and it's kind of like her upbringing and a couple of events that happened, parts of her life that she writes in poetry, and it's very beautiful. This can absolutely be triggering, so be aware of that. Amanda has trigger warnings inside the book, so if you're wary or if you're in a rough patch at the moment, you can check the trigger warnings and see if you'll feel okay reading this anyways. because I personally did, even though I might have been wary of other books because I've seen a lot of her poetry online. So I wasn't triggered by this book. I was rather empowered and inspired by this book. But you do you, and you be careful and take care of yourself, because your mental health is always more important than reading a book. Seriously, please try to take care of yourself to the best of your ability. However, if you're able to, and if you're interested in reading this book, please do. Like, this is the first poetry book or collection that I've ever read, and I would love it if you read it and supported Amanda. I cannot wait for The Witch Burns in this one, which I think is the name of the second installment, and I cannot wait to support Amanda more and see what she does in the future. Really love this book, and I think I will forever love it. This book really inspires and empowers you, no matter how you identify or what you are, or if you even want to write poetry, or if you're interested in poetry or not. Like, if you're not interested, it's cool, you don't have to read it, but if you just have the slightest, like, oh, maybe I like that, please pick it up, because I'm pretty sure you will. Like, I'm fairly certain that you will. It's just so good. Like, just read it. You'll do yourself a great favor. I, of course, give it 5 out of 5 stars, and yeah, those were all the books that I read since last time we spoke. Have you read any of these books? Please let me know. Have you read another great book since last time we spoke? Tell me about it. I would love to hear. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Your support means the world to me, and have a great day /night / whatever part is for you guys. Bye!